Hello and welcome to Channel 2S. I'm your host Second Soundwave, and today we're taking a look at the high-grade Universal Century Crossbone Gundam X-0. Before we start this video, I'd like to give a big thank you to the Hangar Bay once again for providing me with this kit. If you want to get an X-0 of your own, you can follow the links down in the description below. And with that out of the way, let's just jump right into the review. Hailing from one of the most popular manga in the Gundam universe, the Crossbone X-0 is a very cool looking suit. Its body is primarily silver with some metallic red accents. This is a Crossbone Gundam, and the thing with the Crossbone Gundams is they do tend to get a bit samey after a while, so I think the best thing we could do right now is pull on our old friend Crossbone X1 and just see how different these kits actually are. At first glance, it would seem like these two kits are identical past their color differences. However, there are a few minor physical modifications. The X-0 uses the Crossbone Kai style chest, which is extended out slightly and has a large skull and crossbones molded into it. The X-0 also has a new antenna piece, which is more vertical and a little bit thicker. The way these two kits handle their stickers is also quite a bit different. Now, the eye and sensor stickers are the same on both kits, and so are the gray markings on their knees. And then the yellow stickers for the chest Vulcans and, I guess, shoulder Vulcans are the same on both models. But interestingly enough, the stickers for the extra connectors on the shoulders have been reversed. So on the X1, we have a white piece of plastic with a blue sticker on the outer facing side. But then on the X-0, we have a silver piece of plastic with a white sticker around the inside. Unfortunately, in both cases, these are the dreaded wraparound stickers, but fortunately they seem to be holding themselves down reasonably well. Beyond that, the X-0 also includes a few new stickers that are not seen on the X1. Another small pair of white stickers is included to replicate the clasps on the chest. On the original X1 model, no such sticker was provided. It's a similar story for the little bits of yellow around the thrusters. I was pretty apprehensive about these stickers when I put them on, but they've been holding up very well. Hey, it's Second from the future editing this video. So I noticed when I was talking about the stickers that I actually forgot to mention a couple stickers that I did not put on the kit. There was a pair of white wraparound stickers that were supposed to go on the tips of the antenna, but I just left those off because I never really put those kind of stickers on since they usually look like crap. They also, oddly enough, wanted me to put this black sticker over the top of the red piece in the center of his waist, which was just stupid. Because it's already an awesome looking metallic red piece, why would I put a black sticker over that? That's dumb. Okay, back to the rest of the video. Really, the most interesting aspect of this kit and its biggest selling point are the accessories. But before we dive into all the extra cool stuff you get with this kit, I want to touch up on the articulation real quick. Now, I'm not going to give you the usual articulation montage because this kit poses the exact same way as anything else from the All Gundam project. Right around the time that Gundam Build Fighters started, Bandai introduced the All Gundam project with the intent of making a more uniform, consistent in quality series of high grades. All these kits are very simple, very straightforward, and very, very posable. So the shoulders are ball jointed, the elbows and knees have a very deep double jointed bend, there's rotations at the bicep and thigh, and the hips have 00 Gundam levels of mobility. The armatures in the backpack are all mounted on ball joints, and they can rotate around a peg in the middle. The thrusters on the end of these armatures aren't technically hinged, however they're attached in such a way that you can fake it pretty easily. And everything else articulation-wise in this kit is exactly as you would expect from a modern high grade. If you can think of a pose within reason, this guy can probably pull it off. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, let's talk accessories. So as always, we're going to start with the most basic of the basic, the beam sabers. They're very simple, they've got pink blades, they've got silver handles, and unfortunately they don't store anywhere. In addition to those beam sabers, you also get a very small pair of knives. On the larger Crossbone models, the knives are actually stored right here on the back of the leg, but because this is just a high grade, it's just a separate piece. You also get a pair of teeny tiny little separate knife blades that can be mounted to the bottom of the kit's feet. So already we've got ourselves some pretty neat melee options, but of course this is a Crossbone kit, so we're nowhere's near done. So the next weapons we're going to be looking at are carryovers from the Crossbone X1. These are the two primary weapons of the X1, a flintlock pistol and a beam cutlass. Both of these weapons look pretty awesome. I'm especially a fan of the cutlass. I really like that big pink effect part it has. And the flintlock pistol is pretty cool too. The ring on the end of the handle is a nice touch. A pair of specialized hands is included for holding the flintlock pistol due to its unusual shape, and that just pegs in very securely, and you can hold it in either hand. On their own, these are some pretty nice weapons, but if you're at all familiar with the original Crossbone, you'll know there's a little bit more to these than meets the eye. So you can take the sword and remove the blade along with this whole little silver piece, and then you can take the gun and you can rotate the handle down and then flip up this little flap. And then once that's done, you can take the two weapons and combine them together just like that. Once the two weapons are combined together, you get yourself a pretty cool super cannon. In order to hold this weapon, you do get a new hand that's very similar to the normal holding hand. It just has a very dramatic 45-degree bend in the wrist, and that's just so you can get this extra kind of odd back section around his wrist and arm without too much difficulty. Once you have everything situated, this is a pretty nice looking weapon, but again, it's just a carryover from the X1. The real fun happens when you break out the X-0's new weapons. The first new weapons to come with the X-0 are a pair of very cool beam shotguns. These weapons are all new and at the time of this video exclusive to the Crossbone X-0. And I really like the way these look. And because Crossbone is all about crazy weapon gimmicks, you know, we got a gun and a sword that can combine, we got all sorts of crazy stuff that can pop out of the guy's body. Basically the point I'm trying to get at is that these shotguns can transform. So you lift up the handle, you rip it in half, you take this little connector out of the middle and make sure you don't lose it, and then you reattach the two halves just like so. One effect part later, you have yourself an awesome beam sword. I really cannot complain about this weapon in either mode. I mean, granted, it would have been nice if that little connector piece had somewhere to go when the weapon was in sword mode, but still, I can't deny that these things look awesome. So the next weapon we're going to be looking at is one you've probably seen before if you're at all familiar with the Crossbone Gundam X3. Yes, this is in fact the X3's primary weapon of choice, the big sword with spikes on the side. So this weapon, as it stands right now, is pretty plain looking. It's just a big block of white plastic. However, you can spice it up a bit with the included effect parts. So you get a row of spikes that attaches on to either side of the sword. The connection here is a little bit tighter than it needs to be, but once these pieces are in, they're definitely not falling out. And you can take the sword as it is right now and stick it in his hand. Now, it's not a perfect connection. The handle is a smooth round peg, so it's a little bit wobbly. It can flop around if you don't pose it properly. You just kind of have to be smart with it and work with gravity instead of against it. And if you're patient with it and you take your time, you can get some pretty decent poses. You can also take this weapon a step further by removing the tip and replacing it with a very large beam effect. This makes the sword just stupidly massive, like way bigger than it needs to be. Here's the X1. Just so you can see how unnecessarily large this sword is. I don't really think this extra blade piece was all that necessary. It's already an intimidating enough sword on its own. But I guess every manga's gotta have that one guy with a giant stupid sword. There's one more really cool thing you can do with this sword, and that's what sets it apart from the version of this weapon that you get with both the X3 and the full cloth. Because like the shotguns, this thing transforms. You just rotate the handle, open up the blade, remove the handle, grab yourself your handy dandy parts forming T, and stick it in right here. Make sure it's locked in nicely with these arms. And then you take the top half and the bottom half and you stick them back together. And now you've got yourself a crossbow Gundam. I don't know, does that pun work? In all seriousness, this weapon looks great. It is still all white. That's a little bit disappointing. I would have liked to have seen a little more color on it. One last thing I'm going to mention about the crossbow is you do have to use the specialized version of the hand that was meant for holding this, because otherwise, just due to the nature of the handle, you're not going to be able to get it in his hand. And that is almost everything that the Crossbone X-0 comes with, but there's just a few last accessories we have to look at. These fall into the category of what I would call, I guess, body modifications for the Crossbone. The first piece is an alternate face. This version of the face has the faceplate retracted so you can see the creepy, toothy grin that the Crossbone holds underneath. Up next, we have the grappling hooks. These are very easy to switch out. You just pull out the center part of the waist, take off the original front skirts, and replace them with these. The skirt armor itself has been remolded to resemble a pair of claws, and there's a pair of very long bendy wires connecting them back to the waist. You can pose these however you like and get yourself into all sorts of wacky situations with them. Those grappling hook pieces were actually taken from the Crossbone X1 Kai, and there's one other accessory included with this kit that was taken from the X1 Kai, but it's not quite as cool as the grappling hooks. I'll let Past Second do the talking. So here he is with the cape attached. I'm just going to say it flat out right now, this cape is kind of crap. It looks extremely unconvincing. It's made out of really thin, flimsy plastic and it doesn't look like anything more. Getting this thing on was also a royal pain in the ass. So you start by attaching this flap underneath the backpack, and then you have to like fold this bit down and put it under the head, and there's like this one loop on this side that has to come around through here, but you also have to snake this side down through like a hole in the other piece, and then you have to put the arms on and the head goes on under this the whole thing, and it's a pain in the ass, and it's really not worth the end result. Now, a couple people commented on the unboxing suggesting that I should take the cape and use this as a template to cut a better cape out of cloth, and that's actually a pretty good idea, and you might end up with a more convincing looking cape. But if it has the same structure and shape as this cape, it's still going to be a pain in the ass to work with. I think you'd be better off just making your own cape completely from scratch. If you're wondering how the cape affects his articulation, well, it is attached to the top of his shoulders by these little clips, kind of. So it does restrict his shoulders a little bit, but you can still move the forearms all right. Of course, the lower body is completely unrestricted. But at the end of the day, this is an accessory that I am not using with this kit ever again. So yeah, unfortunately the cape is not so great. But what is pretty great is this little core fighter piece you get. Now, admittedly, it is pretty plain looking. It's completely uncolored and needs paint basically everywhere. But what you can do with this is you can pull off the backpack just like this, and then you can take that peg, stick it in here, and fold up all these little flappity doohickeys. And look at that, you got yourself a core fighter. So at the end of the day, is the Crossbone X-0 a good kit? Yeah, I'd say it is. The Crossbone X1 was already a good HGUC kit, and the X-0 adds a nice refreshing new twist onto the old formula. Now, I wouldn't say the X-0 is a replacement for the X1, nor is it any kind of definitive Crossbone Gundam, because it is missing a couple of key components that I did like a lot from the original Crossbone, such as the very awesome beam shield effect part. But the point of the Crossbone Gundams is to complement each other, not replace each other, and I'd say that the X-0 complements the X1 very, very well. And once again, I'd like to thank Hangar Bay for supplying me with this kit. If you want to get an X-0 of your own, you can go ahead and follow the link down in the description below. And Hangar Bay also has over 100 premium Bandai kits in stock and ready to ship within one business day. So even if you're not super into the X-0, they might still have something for you. Anyways, I'm your host, Second Soundwave. Thanks for watching this video. Leave a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new for more Gunpla news and reviews, and I will see you next time. Take care, guys.